Why have we come to earth? Do you remember? Why have we taken birth? Do you remember?
We're putting together a wonderful Christmas Eve service that's going to have the choir singing Holly Day. Dalton Fitzgerald will be here to make you cry with Ave Maria. No, O Holy Night, O Holy Night. And Into It will be also playing. So I invite you on the 24th to bring your friends and family for that wonderful evening, 7 to 8:30. And I love it. You know, we're the kind of center where we can have Christian songs, we can have a Jewish menorah, we can have a Buddhist reading, and all that together in the same place. Isn't that great? Yeah. One of the things we talk about is that all paths lead to God, and each path is perfect for each person who's walking that path. So I invite you to simply honor all the paths and the path that you're on, and the path that you came from. You know, whatever history you came from, you're actually still on that path. I remember I grew up Catholic, as many of you know, and I used to call myself a recovering Catholic for a long time. And I met a minister one time who described herself as an evolving Catholic. And I like that. I like that because there were certain things about the Catholicism that I really loved, you know, and that really touched me like that, and certain things that didn't work. And so it's just, we're evolving whatever we are. I was in Seattle, we had, God, it's been 2 decades now, a night where we decided to put on our first interfaith service ever. It was the night before Thanksgiving, and we called it Building Bridges of Understanding. And I was in charge of working, interfacing with all the people who were the speakers. And so at one point I'm sitting out in the lobby and with the doors closed, and there's a Buddhist doing chants that you can hear through the speakers outside. And meanwhile outside is sitting a Baptist minister, a Jewish rabbi, and a Muslim imam all chatting together. You know, and it was just like, yeah, this is how it's supposed to be. You know, we get to all honor that. So today we're celebrating and working with the idea of Advent. I need to back up one moment. So we are celebrating the festivals of light, and today we're celebrating Bodhi Day because that's Tuesday. But tomorrow also starts the day of Hanukkah, the Jewish festival of lights. We're going to touch that next week simply because it goes for 8 days, and so I have one more opportunity to come to it sort of late in the festival. So we're not ignoring Hanukkah. We're going to get there just next week because it'll be the, I believe, 6th or 7th day of Hanukkah next Sunday. So we'll do that. But what we're working with as an overall theme is the idea of Advent. And Advent simply, as we talked about last week, means coming. Something is coming. Something is being blown towards us, ad ventum, towards us. And what it is that we're celebrating, what it is that's coming, is this birth of light. It's this birth of light. And the light, of course, as we metaphysicians know, isn't just out there. It isn't just that the sun will start to make the days be longer, or that, there is a kid born 2,000 years ago, or that Buddha was enlightened, 2,500 years ago, or that, the Maccabees, did their thing, so it'll be about 2,600 years ago. But rather that, this light is being born within us, and we are here to prepare for that light. And so that's the process of Advent, is that preparation time, that making it welcome, making ourselves open to that which is already present within us, but being conscious about it. So that's the journey that we're taking for these 4 weeks. So last Sunday we talked about the first candle, and each of the candles for each week has a theme to it. So last week's theme was hope. And we take hope as more of a standing in faith, standing in certainty, standing in an expectancy. And the idea of having an expectancy of greater light and greater joy in our lives than ever before. How many of you would love to have that experience? Okay? And so we talked last week about we have to prepare for that. We have to just, It doesn't just come. I mean, Santa Claus is a nice idea, but most of us have kind of realized the fact that, we actually have to kind of do some stuff, right? I think last week I used the analogy of a friend of mine who decided to ride the Seattle to Portland bike ride the night before the Seattle to Portland bike ride, which is a 200-mile bike ride in length. And she went down to her storage locker, grabbed her bike out of the locker, dusted it off, pumped up the tires, which tells you how much cycling she had done in any recent time, and rode the ride. And she actually did complete it because she was a runner and she was in good shape. But she was off work for the next 6 weeks because she literally couldn't walk due to tendonitis. So that's what preparation does, is it makes it easier. The light's coming anyways. We all have the light anyways, but it makes it easier to experience it. It's less of a major jolt and smack in the face than it is if we're unprepared for it. So that's what we're opening up for from last week. This week, we're opening up to the idea of love. This week's candle is the candle of love, and I'm going to invite our practitioner, Diana Johnson, to come up and light both last week's candle and this week's candle. Some qualities are harder to light than others, aren't they? So love is the universal givingness. It's been said that God is love. God is love. One of the quotes readings that really woke me up a number of years ago was when I read Emily Cady, who was a New Thought writer in the early part of the last century, and she wrote this quote that said, "God is not loving." And that's not what you would expect, right? Especially from a New Thought writer, God is not loving. Okay? So God is not loving. That is, God is not a being that is loving. God is love itself. God is love itself. Whenever any of us experience love in any degree, in any form, in any way, we're experiencing an aspect of God. We're experiencing the nature of God within us. And so since God is love, all that it can express is love. Now, since we teach that since God is all there is, that you and I are one of God, what does that make us? We are emanations or expressions of love. We are love itself, right? Look at the person next to you and say, "You are love." You are love. I don't think anybody quite got to you there. Anybody missed? Charlotte, you are love. Each of us is love. Each of us is love in form. Isn't that cool? Yep. When we take the time to think about that, yes. When we take the time to really experience that, to really acknowledge that, to really take that in, each of us is love in form. Everything we've ever wanted, everything we ever will want is love in form. So that includes the people in our lives, or the people we would love to have in our lives. That includes the home we have or would love to have, the money we have or would love to have, the car we would love to have, the work we would love to have, the creative ideas we would love to have, anything you can think of, all of it, the healthy body, all of it is love. Ultimately, all we're ever wanting to experience is love. And so if we add love, when we're trying to manifest something in our lives, if we would love it into our lives, we start to vibrate at the same energy that it is. Most of us know that the best way to attract a person into our lives we want to be more loving with is to be more loving with that person, right? Okay? It actually works the same with everything. So we're building this consciousness of vibrating in love. The nature of this light that we're wanting to be born within us and opening up to is love. And that's what's being reborn within us. And so, since the nature of this light is love, we must become love. We must become deeper in love, in our being love than we ever have before. So we build our consciousness of love. And it's like going to the gym. We build our bodies, we build our consciousness of love by doing what? Practicing love. Practicing being a more loving person. So we enact the nature of the divine, which is the giving and the receiving of love. The divine, the infinite, is always giving and receiving, giving and receiving. There's only one, right? So whatever it's expressing, it's also receiving. And it's constantly in that process. And you and I are part of that process. We are gifts of love to this world. You realize that? Yes. See, the infinite wants you here. I know that because you're here. And by here, I don't mean necessarily in this center, although yes, you are. But a larger here. You're on the planet. You're in life. You're alive. The infinite has taken the time, the thought, the energy to be you. Breathe that in for a moment. Anytime we feel kind of lost or alone or whatever, just remember that. The infinite is taking the time and the energy to be you. You're that important to the infinite. You're that important to this process of this world and beyond. You're that important. So being in alignment with the divine for ourselves means we be in service. We start giving and receiving in powerful ways. And we have to both give and receive love, don't we? You ever met somebody that you tried to love and they wouldn't receive it? Yeah? You ever been that person? Okay. You don't have to raise your hand, but you know. It doesn't work when it gets shut off. So we have to both give it and receive it and let it in. In the 40-day Mind Fast Soul Feast book that we're working with, and by the way, those of you who ordered this book but didn't get it last week, it's in the bookstore now, and those of you who don't know about this but would like to join in, we're doing this 40-day Mind Fast Soul Feast through the month of December and the first week of January as a practice to prepare our consciousness in this Advent space. And so it's in the bookstore. It's like $10. It's really cheap, and it's a 40-day opportunity to have a daily meditation to work with. But on day 3, Michael says, stop working and start serving. Stop working and start serving. See, when we're working, we're suffering to get something. Right? You know, I got to go to work today. I got to do this work today. I thank God for Friday. You know, all that stuff. Remember, some of you remember this? Some of you still know this? You're surrounded by people who have that consciousness. We're working to try to get something, and it doesn't work, ever. Serving is giving from my abundance of love. Serving is reenacting the nature of spirit in whatever I'm doing. I shared with the first service that when I was in Seattle for a while, I worked for Amazon.com for about 4 or 5 years. And I was a buyer in their consumer electronics department. And so one of the things to keep that from being just work for me that I did was that I had the idea that I was I forget how I phrased that exactly, but basically I was a gatekeeper at the gates of consciousness. So that, you know, in the universe, when we send up a prayer, we like a response, right? Okay, so it was my responsibility that when somebody sent up a prayer, known as an order, okay, it was my responsibility to make sure that there was an answer there. In other words, something in stock for them to order. Not too much of it, so we wouldn't be overbooked on it, but make sure that they could get. How many of you love it when your prayer does not get answered right away? You know, a couple of people said yes because they understand there's a little even more process. But you know, I hate it when I go to order even now for Amazon and it says, will be in stock in 15 days. You know, it's like, no, I ordered it today because I wanted it now, you know. I'm a Prime member. Give it to me free in 2 days, you know. I expect this to show up. What do you mean, 15 days? So I made work that way. It was a way of being of service to the people who are placing orders. And we can do this. We can play with our work to be in service wherever we're at, whatever work we're doing. You know, how can I be of service? How can I be serving? And so being in serving, we're giving of ourselves. And there's a wonderful contest that I remember a while back, a minister friend of mine invited several of us to participate in. Can you outgive the universe? And the answer would be, no, you can't outgive the universe. If you want to know for sure, try it. Try it. You can't outgive the universe because every time we give, the universe responds. The Hindus call it seva, sacred service, serving the infinite as the infinite. Recognizing that I am God, serving God. I don't have any other agenda. I'm just being here to serve God. Recognizing my wholeness. So it's not out of a diminished, I'm not worthy, but I'm going to serve you. It's, no, I am equal to the infinite, and you are equal to the infinite, and it is my joy to serve you, and sometimes it is my joy to receive being served by you. Okay? And it doesn't matter the outcome. I mentioned the first service. Roy Wolfstead, who many of you know, was here on Wednesday blowing leaves and piling them into a wheelbarrow and taking them down into our kind of dump pit down here. And I know that because I saw him doing it. Saturday morning, Cynthia and I pulled in for the silent retreat that we had yesterday and looked at the place where he'd been blowing leaves. You can't tell. You can't tell a thing. Because so many more leaves have come. Now, he doesn't care because he was being of service. Okay? He was being of service. And we would have twice as many leaves if, he hadn't. So I'm grateful that he was. But it's not about the results. It's about being of that service, about doing what it is that is the right thing for me to do in the moment. What is mine to do here? So how do we open to this loving consciousness, this infinite, this light that we want to have born within us? First of all, we desire it. We have to desire it. We have to want it. Nothing comes to us if we don't first have a desire for it. Right? Have you noticed that? Okay. So we have to apply our will, which is our power of choice, and our desire. And our desire really is getting our heart into it. It's loving it. If I desire someone or something, it's because I love it. Right? So we apply our love to this idea of the light being reborn within us in a more powerful way than ever before. And so we have this desire, we apply our will, and we make the choice to be that place where the light of love is reborn in our lives. Would you join me in that commitment for this season? To be the place where the light of love is reborn within you in ways more powerful than you've ever experienced before. Would you be willing to commit to that? Yes. Great. And you don't have to know how. Isn't that the cool thing? Because a lot of times we sit there and go, well, yeah, I'm willing to commit, but I have no effing idea how that's going to happen. Okay? Pardon my language. But you've all been there, right? Okay? I have no idea how that's going to happen. Whoops. We'll take that part out of the video. Unfortunately, we don't have that ability. But anyways, we don't have to know how. We have to be willing. We have to say, yes, I am willing to be the place. I'm committed to be the place where this happens. Next, we have to invest our love, our time, and our intention in doing this. So we invest our love, our time, and attention in preparing to be that place where the light can be reborn more deeply than ever before. We woo the divine lover. How many of you have ever wooed somebody? A few of you have, okay. And how many of you have ever been wooed by somebody? And how many of you have ever read romance novels or seen movies where you get the idea of what wooing looks or feels like? Okay? So we've all had that experience of wooing, even if we've not directly had it ourselves, okay? We have to woo somebody. And when we are wooing somebody, we throw everything we are and have into that process. When Cynthia wanted to woo me, she had a fear, because I had given a bunch of reasons before that. I don't date in the congregation. I'm not ready to have a relationship yet, because I'm still not over my last wife, and other stuff like that. And plus, I was teaching a class that she was in at the time, and she still walked through all those obstacles and said, what she said, which is basically, I want to invite you to dance on the dance floor with me. It's a short version of it, but she walked through that. We have to walk through our fears of the light. What happens if I really invite the light to, Will I have to stop watching football? Will I have to give up chocolate? Will I have to, what does that really mean to me, Will I end up in India as Mother Teresa, working with lepers? What does that really mean if I open to the light? That's not what it necessarily means for each of us. But what it means is I'll be more fully expressing who I really came here to be and who I really am. And you probably won't have to move to India to do it. Okay? So we have to woo that. And while the lover is always present, we have to let the lover in. We have to let the lover in. And we have to invite it in. So we have to get our own consciousness in the habit of seeing and being with this light. So we take the time daily. When you were wooing somebody, you were probably sending them letters, emails, phone calls, right? Making that contact daily, sometimes hourly, if you were really after them. What would it be like if we did that practice with the infinite? What would it be like if hourly we would set aside a moment to be in connection with the infinite? That might be a practice of just gratitude for life as it is. That might be a practice of just simply saying, you know what, I take this, it's 10 o'clock exactly on the dot, I just remember that I'm in love with the divine and the divine's in love with me. Just that much. To practice that, to play with that. So I want to invite you to woo the divine this week. We talked a moment ago about seva and doing seva. Seva is, I just want to mention that true seva is done with love. Just love from our heart. There's no complaining. Seva and complaining don't go together. There's no attention to what we don't have or what's not working. There's no belief that it should be different than what it is. We're just being of service. See, Roy being of service out there with the leaves isn't, and I'll only do it if the leaves stop falling today. There was no condition placed on it. It was just, it needs to be done, and I know it will help, and so I do it. Tomorrow more leaves are going to fall. I pick up a piece of trash. Guess what? Somebody's going to drop more trash. Right? I mean, unfortunately, it seems to be the way of the world. But we keep on doing it. We keep on doing it. We keep on being in that consciousness. And we move from a getting consciousness to a giving consciousness. From a consciousness of what can I get, what's in it for me, to how can I serve? Michael Beckwith, in an interview that I saw with him, raised the question, what would it be like if we lived in an economy of giving rather than getting? What would that be like? Now, the truth is, each of us can live in that economy because we create our own economy around us. And as more and more of us participate in that kind of economy, it will start to catch on because it's what really speaks to our souls. And we've all been through the getting economy. We know it doesn't work, right? At least not in the long run. You've seen that? You've noticed that? Okay. What happens if we're in a giving economy? What happens if we're living with the question, what am I to give here today? What if that became our question? Another way you can practice love is I recently bought the book, How to Be an Adult in a Relationship, because I need to learn. It's actually a book we're looking at for Prac 2, but I showed it to Cynthia, and she said, oh, you're going to start to be an adult in the relationship. All right. She didn't say that. I said that to her, actually, about me. So I thought I should learn how to do this. It has 5 A's in it. 5 A's to practice in our love. And I want to invite you to practice these 5 A's in your relationships with life this week. Okay? The first one is attention. Attention. How many of you have been talking with somebody who's looking all around, checking out who's going by? Hey, nice to see you too. And as you're talking to them, does that feel loving and like you're being paid attention to? No. And how many of you have been with somebody who just is right with you? Right with you. And it feels different, doesn't it? And you feel loved and blessed and cherished by this person in this moment. Okay? So I invite you to practice that idea of attention. There was a Zen master, or Zen student who was walking with his teacher who asked, "What is the secret to enlightenment?" And the Zen master said, "Attention." The student said, "Well, yes, I know that attention is the first step. But what's after attention? What's after attention? What comes next?" And the teacher said, "The first step is attention. The second step is attention. 100th step is attention." And so the student, clearly frustrated by now, finally looks at the master and says, "Well, what do you mean by attention then?" He goes, "Excellent question. By attention, I mean attention." As we pay attention to the things we do, the people we're with, and who we are being, we start to create our own opening for our own enlightenment, that light to be born, to be expressed within us. So that's the first step this week, the first practice this week is attention. The second one is acceptance. We are accepting of people and things around us. The Buddhists call it the glance of mercy. The glance of mercy. It doesn't mean you have to like everybody and everything around you, but you're at least accepting of them. Okay? You receive them respectfully as they are. Okay? Sometimes that's more challenging than others, isn't it? And yet we still practice accepting. Have you ever experienced being accepted by somebody? And it feels good. Have you ever experienced doing something dumb or making a mistake and still being accepted? I remember my first real job was with Aetna Life and Casualty. I moved to the transfer me from Portland to their home office in Hartford. And about my fourth week or fifth week there, I made a fairly good and expensive mistake. It was going to cost, take quite a bit to resolve and clean up. And I expected anything from being fired to being at least, really reamed for, what I had done. And instead, my boss and his boss basically said, "Okay, that's the situation. Let's, we need to do this to fix it, and this to fix it, and this to fix it." And they just started problem solving. They just started dealing with the problem. And I'm like going, I kind of finally looked at him and I said, you mean you're not going to fire me? You're not going to? I said, "No, we're not going to fire you. You're fine. We probably just didn't train you enough to where you could have avoided that mistake." They took personal responsibility for my mistake. Okay? And they accepted me still as a person. That's that acceptance. Can we give that to other people? The third step, the third A, is appreciation. It's a deeper process than acceptance. It's I appreciate you. I appreciate you. I admire you. I value you. And I delight in you. A wonderful way to practice this is gratitude. I am grateful for you. Yesterday during the silent retreat, we had the process of walking the labyrinth, being in gratitude for everything in our life, and being specific about things in our lives. And it was interesting to find what it was that came up in our minds that we could be grateful for, and what came up in our minds that we couldn't be grateful for. We still needed to have some experience around or process around to deepen and open to that. So can we be appreciative? Can we practice appreciation? The fourth A is affection. And that's being near or being a loving presence to or with someone. Sometimes it's nice, isn't it, just to have somebody just stand next to you. You're going through a tough time, they just put their hand on your back or your shoulder, or they just stand next to you and just be with you. Okay? That's a form of affection. That's just being a loving presence with the other person. You don't have to do anything. You don't have to say anything. This is the one that we guys have a tough time doing, We're always trying to fix it. I learned this years ago when a woman friend of mine was talking on the phone with me, and I kept trying to fix the problems that she was talking about. And finally she just yelled into the phone. She says, "I don't want you to fix anything. I just want you to listen." Oh. And first of all, it was like a burden lifted off of my shoulders. It's like, I don't have to fix it. I don't have to do anything. I can just be with this person. So that's the idea of affection. Can we just be with a person? Can we just be with a situation? And the final A, the fifth A, is allowing. I allow people and things to be themselves as they are. I allow people and things to be themselves as they are. So this week, I'm going to invite us to have a spiritual practice, 3 different practices. The first one is to practice love, and using those 5 A's is a wonderful way to do that. Attention, acceptance, appreciation, affection, and allowing. To practice that wherever you go. To practice that wherever you are. So to practice love, practice being a loving presence in your life. That's number one. Number two is to practice seva. Practice giving. Giving for no reason, giving out of that spirit of I am the infinite, giving to the infinite. And if you really want to take that to a deeper level, no complaining. Try a week of no complaining. It will shift your life for some of you. And I define complaining as, this person over here has done something to upset me, so I talk to this person over here about that. That's complaining. Resolving, which is different, is this person has done something over here to upset me, so I go to that person and I do whatever I can to start to resolve that. I let them know that I feel hurt or upset or whatever like that. Can we work this through? Can we talk this through? So I've dealt with the person. That's different. That's not complaining. That's resolving. That's doing something to with the person that can actually do something about it. Complaining is I'm upset with this person and I'm going to go tell all these people over here that that person over there is whatever. Okay? Can you practice not doing that this week? Yes. Good. The rest of you? Would you be willing to try? Yes. All right. Number 3, contemplate the love of God. Spend time contemplating this love. Be open to its growth in your life. Be that place that you take some time to just contemplate the love of God. To think about that, to feel that, to take moments to be aware of that. So that's our spiritual practice this week that I invite you to. Number 1 is practice being loving. Number 2 is practice giving. And number 3 is to contemplate the love of God in your life. So are we willing to play with that this week? Yes. Okay. Watch what it does for your life. If you truly do this, again, it's going to open up huge amounts of good and joy and love in your own life. I want to close with a quote from Thich Nhat Hanh, staying in our kind of Buddhist theme today. And he's talking about the 4th practice of right thinking. There's 4 practices in right thinking, which is one of the 8 Noble Truths. The 4th practice of right thinking is bodhicitta. Our mind of love, which is what that means. Our mind of love is the deep wish to cultivate understanding in ourselves in order to bring happiness to many beings. I'll say it again. It's the deep wish to cultivate understanding in ourselves in order to bring happiness to many beings. It is the motivating force for the practice of mindful living. With bodhicitta at the foundation of our thinking, so with love, with that mind of love at the foundation of our thinking, everything we do or say will help others and ourselves be liberated. So I invite you this week to take that mind of love and be it as much as you can. So let's move into prayer. So breathing in for a moment. Breathing in that idea of the infinite love. Letting it resonate through our lungs, out through the bloodstream, but to be distributed out through the cells of our body. God is love. So that every cell, every organ, every molecule, every atom, every subatomic particle, every space in between the subatomic particles, all of it resonates with this idea of infinite love. The infinite as love. And then we breathe in again the idea that I am one of that. I am one of the love. I am one of this infinite love. This is the truth of who I am. All the list of stuff and reasons that I have to be separate from that are not the truth. God does not care. And so I stop caring. I throw that list away. And I open to the recognition that I am the love of the infinite in form. That is who I truly am. There's no reason that I need to withhold from that, block it out. I simply let it in. I let my awareness be aware of that which is already so. I always have been one with the infinite love. I always will be one with the infinite love. And I am, right this second, one of the infinite love in form and in expression. And so I speak my word that each of us this week, this month, this lifetime, experiences that to a deeper and deeper and more fabulous, more wonderful degree. How much we are love in form. How brilliant, how beautiful we are as the light of the divine in form. And who we are really here to be. Brilliant lights to each other. Brilliant lights to ourselves. And so we give and we receive this light, this love this week. Even where it's not appreciated, we simply just give it. Without expectation of any return. Because the universe is responsible for the return, not the individual that we give it to. The universe is responsible for the return. And so we give fully into that universe, into each of the expressions that we see before us. We are lights of love. We are open. And out of this, we create a life around us that is more bright, that is more loving. We lift the consciousness of the entire planet just by being willing to be lights of love ourselves. And for this I'm grateful. For this light, for this love, for this lifting, for this consciousness, for this awareness, I'm ever so grateful. And so in that gratitude, I release this word into a practice, a law, a process that knows exactly how to manifest this through us. And it does so, right here, right now, with ease and with grace. And please join me by saying, and so it is. Thank you.
To love, serve.